Hey guys, it's Harrison, and welcome back to Awkward Sports History. So, for this episode, we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm here with my friend Jensen, and we're going to do a little recap. And while it's a little later in the year, as in it's already the new year, to do something like this, we thought it'd be fun to do a look back at the history that was added to sports in 2022. Jensen, how are you?
Doing great, Harrison. I'm really excited to go through some of our top moments across all sports. I know you have a big miscellaneous list in there. I'm excited to share mine, but also go through a lot more for like the bigger sports that you and I both watch all the time and that we talk about throughout the whole year. So definitely excited to get going with this. What do you want to start off with?
I think it would be nice to start off with some college football.
Do
That's
it.
typically what, it ends the year, but it also starts the year, if it makes sense. You got
Right.
bowl games on New Year's Day, you have the college football national championship. And that's actually one of the big moments I'm leading off with. And that is when Georgia won the national championship. It was their first since the 1980 season.
Yeah, I had the same thing that was number one on my list. I thought of college football. I thought of Georgia beating Bama in the Natty. And also a big story behind that was also behind a former walk-on quarterback in Stetson Bennett. That was a really, really cool story there that they added in. I think that was the first time that happened with a walk-on quarterback.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that one. We'd have to do some research and maybe put in the description when this video is posted.
Yeah, I'm saying that with about 85% confidence in that it's never happened before that. But I
Yeah.
know Stetson Bennett was a walk-on.
But it is a fascinating story. Grew up a Bulldog, went to Georgia, left to JUCO, and once he got everything together, went back to
Back
Georgia
to
as a
Georgia.
walk-on
Yeah,
and won the national championship. This is a very different situation than when a potential Heisman winner helped them win back in 1980. Or I guess at that point it was January of 1981. But
right.
that's a little bit of a technicality there.
Yeah, I still call it the 80 season. Another fun point that I think in bringing back things from a long time ago, I like that USC is back near the top with behind Lincoln Riley and with Caleb Williams winning the Heisman this year. It was a really good story to see them back competing for the Pac-12 championship and competing with an opportunity to get into the playoff really late in the season. I think
Oh,
it's
I
great.
agree. And USC being back is so good for college football. But speaking of USC, and I have this isn't my number two, but it's a really good transition. We have USC and UCLA announcing they're going to move to the Big Ten this year.
Ooh, yes, that's a really good point to add in there. I forgot about that. That's on my list. I forgot that was this year.
Isn't
Ooh,
that
that's a
nuts?
big move. And then it's like, does location even matter for the conferences? But at the
Yeah.
same time, who cares? I just want good games. I just
Oh,
want good drama
exactly.
games. So that's a really good one to add in there.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's going to be absolute hell is if like UCLA is playing Rutgers in basketball on a Wednesday night. But
Right.
besides that, it is quality. UCLA and USC fit the academic model and sports model for the Big Ten.
Absolutely.
It's a good fit. It will be awkward, for the sake of the channel, to point out that having some of these teams play their former Pac-12 counterparts in the Rose Bowl, definitely awkward, but we'll cross that bridge when it happens inevitably.
Yeah, and another thing about like newness with a team and immediate success like USC had, I would think about TCU. They really made the transfer portal work. Now they're in the college football playoff, and well, that happened in
Right.
2022, and now they're in the national championship coming up very soon.
Yeah, we will see who will win the national championship, the rise of TCU, or will Stetson Bennett go for two? Jensen, do you have anything to add for college football before we move on?
Yeah, I got two more. One, a couple, a little bit on the sadder side, but you have to be mentioned as big moments in college football. That was when three Virginia players were shot and killed by a foreign player.
Right.
ACC teams all wore a sticker on the back of the helmet for the rest of the season to honor those players. That was a really, really sad moment, and just the whole world of college
Absolute
football was
tragedy.
down for a couple weeks. Also, another sad moment was Mike Leach passing away, the legendary Mississippi State coach, air raid offense, passing away only a matter of a couple months ago.
No, it had been less than a couple months ago.
Yeah, I think it was
It
within
was
a
in
month
the
and a half,
last
maybe.
few weeks, I feel like. Uh,
Really? Okay.
but yeah, no, Mike Leach was one of those guys where I don't think a single person had something bad to say about him. And that was in I kind of grew up, I grew up in the SEC, but he wasn't around the whole time. So, I didn't always get the exposure that I now wish I had had of Mike Leach growing up based on all the great stories I have heard since his
Yeah,
unfortunate passing. And he's definitely a presence in college football that is going to be missed for a very long time.
absolutely. And we have 30 seconds left in our 5-minute timer for each sport. I want to rattle off two more before we move on.
Go
Another
for it.
that stuck out to me was Tennessee beating Alabama for the first time since 2006. And
That was
then
crazy.
coming up soon, the college football playoff is going to expand to 12 teams. That was this year, the vote.
And I just want to throw one more in there too, because the college football playoff expansion is also big. It could be just in time for Colorado to be relevant in the top
Absolutely
12 with
good one
Coach
there.
Prime heading to Colorado.
Yeah,
Completely
that's a
shocked by
great
that
one
move.
to finish off the college football talk with. That and then let's go ahead and move on to NFL.
Yep.
I'll start us off here. The big one for me early on in the year, Matt Stafford finally gets one. His first year with the Rams after being traded to them. They win a Super Bowl in LA over the Bengals.
And the Bengals, in their own rights, I have as a top five moment. They
Yeah.
finally broke through, won a playoff game for the first time in like what, over 30 years, and they go
Long
all the
time.
way to the Super Bowl. And they had two wins the year before. I know Burrow was hurt, but a
Yeah.
healthy Joe Burrow, he knows how to win. He won a national championship with LSU, and he takes them all the way to the Super.
Dominant season at that.
Absolutely. And LSU had one of the best offenses of all time that year. They're one of the best teams of all time. He had 60 touchdowns. Unbelievable. And he takes the Bengals all the way to the Super Bowl and almost pulls off a win against a
That was
very good Rams team.
amazing.
And
That was
shout out
absolutely fantastic.
and shout out to Matthew Stafford by winning the Super Bowl and proving all those haters wrong from his years from in Detroit. He finally got that right team around him. Forget what's happened with the Rams this year aside. He won a Super Bowl, and
He
that's
proved
huge.
that he's a good quarterback, and it wasn't on him for all those losses in Detroit.
Exactly.
Another one I want to talk about, another older quarterback. That's happened this season. Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings complete the largest comeback in NFL history against Matt Ryan and the Colts, making Matt Ryan the quarterback on both teams to lose the largest comeback in Super Bowl
Isn't
history,
that
comeback of
crazy?
any game in NFL history.
And that's actually something I didn't even think about. He blew that
Yeah.
20-3 lead against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and then he's the losing quarterback for this game against Kirk Cousins of
Yeah.
all. That
Yeah.
really is just insult to injury. We've seen some crazy things. And speaking of crazy things, remember when Antonio Brown ran on the field,
Ooh,
shirt off,
yeah.
right
I,
out?
I was thinking about that for a moment. It didn't make my top five, but ooh, that was a good one. That was early on.
That was like the second to last game of the season. It was when the Bucks were
Yeah.
playing the
That
Jets
was
in New
like
York. I
17
just
or something like that. It
remember,
was in Jet. It was at the Jets.
yeah, I remember watching the game
Ooh,
and suddenly I see, like, I look away for 2 seconds and then AB is just jumping around shirtless on the field. I'm like, did he just have a mutiny? Like,
yeah.
what is
Something
happening
something
right now?
happened there. It was off. So I want to keep it in Florida because that was the Bucks,
Go
and I
for
want
it.
to talk about my Miami Dolphins. I'm a Dolphins fan, so I have bias here, but a top moment or collection of moments is the Dolphins offense is powerful now behind the improvement of Tua, the bolstered offensive line, the addition of Tyreek Hill, and the hiring of first-year head coach Mike McDaniel. I love all the additions over the offseason, and I love the improvement of Tua. It's very sad that he got hurt so
Three
much, and that's another
times.
big moment.
Tua
Honestly,
himself is a sports moment. And
yeah,
the Dolphins just make for an interesting case study because Rockets start, Tua's injuries, and then they've tumbled all the way to the end of the
yeah,
season.
yeah. It was 3-0 to start, then 0-3, and then we won like five straight, and then we lost six
Lost
straight.
five. Oh yeah, that's right. It was five straight until you lost last week.
Yeah,
I remember seeing the stat 0-3,
right,
3-0, 5-0, 0-5.
right.
It's 0-6.
Mhm. It's
That's
rough. It's
rough.
rough, but I mean, it looks good going forward that we're able to score against and outscore some of these really good teams. So that's definitely encouraging. Another Dolphin story I do want to point out that was big. Brian Flores in the lawsuit against the NFL and the Dolphins.
Right. And then there was the tampering too with Tom Brady.
Yes, and
Dolphins have had a very
that
busy
controversy.
2022, an
Yeah,
awkward one, may I say.
it was. I really was not happy with Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, with all that was going on there. So I really was not happy with that. And then also just the whole Brian Flores thing, and also with the tampering, we lost a first round draft pick, which is like, come on, just annoying.
No, it's definitely a tough scene. But one more thing I'd like to point out while we still have
Yeah,
time left for the
30
NFL,
seconds left.
just because it's still happened in 2022, the Washington football team is now the Washington
Now the
Commanders.
Commanders, absolutely good one to
Big,
add in there.
big change. We've gone from in 2020, they were the Redskins for over, what was it, like 80 years? And
Yeah,
then
whole time.
after everything that had happened in 2020, they make the move to go to football team. And after that debate, they finally settle in on the Commanders.
There they
We're not
are.
going to argue whether or not we like it or we dislike it, but it is
That's what it is
still a
now.
big
That's
deal
what
that
it is.
they have settled on this name in 2022.
Yeah,
And on that note, we are moving on. Thank you, football, for 2022. It's time for
yeah.
some basketball.
Let's go to the college level again. We're going to college basketball, and we are starting off. Don Staley coaches South Carolina to the women's national championship, and Kansas beats UNC after UNC went in as an 8 seed. They beat them in the national championship as well.
Both of those very dominant. South Carolina and women's basketball has been really good for a few
Yeah,
years, and seeing them win has just been spectacular. UNC, I just want to point out, and this was my number one moment of the year. They played Duke in the Final Four.
that was huge.
I feel like, regardless of anything when it comes to college basketball, the fact that you got this big rivalry game in the Final Four for the first time ever,
Yeah,
I had to put that as my number one moment. No disrespect to Kansas or South Carolina.
yeah.
Both of
No,
those
that's
were
totally fair. I
spectacular
think
teams.
Duke and UNC is a college basketball equivalent of the Barcelona and Real Madrid.
It's like Yankees, Red Sox, or
Yes, it's exactly that. So that's huge. That was the final four. Oh my gosh. That's
uh,
during the
the
season.
Giants, Cowboys equivalents.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Sticking with March Madness, we're going a little bit earlier in there. St. Peter's
St.
shocked the nation with the
Peter's.
incredible run to the Elite Eight from the 15 seed.
Isn't that crazy?
The Peacocks, right?
Yeah, they were the Peacocks.
St. Peter's Peacocks. That was amazing. No one was thinking anything of that.
I mean, what's fun about this one too is, like, let's be honest, who had heard of St. Peter's
Oh, I
before
can't
this?
I
I
hadn't.
hadn't. You know,
I'd be lying if I said I did. So
I mean, it's up there with a Loyola Chicago type
oh
run.
yeah. Well, that was Final Four though.
That was Final Four,
They
but they
made
were a
Final
bit of
Four
a
from the
higher seed.
11 seed.
Yeah, they were an 11
They were
seed.
11 seed.
So I
They
would
did it
argue
for Sister Jean, baby.
oh, Sister Jean, and I will argue a 15 seed going to the Elite Eight is about the same level as an 11 seed going to the Final Four.
I guess in terms of like probability and history of going further, that
That's
makes
yeah.
sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Also, Coach K retired. Speaking of Duke and
Yes.
UNC, that's
Yep.
probably the biggest retiree apart from Jay Wright at Villanova.
I had both those on there. Yes.
Absolutely.
For me, Coach K was a bigger moment and my biggest moment
Oh,
from
of
college
course.
football, of college basketball. Jay
40
Wright
years as a
right
coach.
back in there.
Yeah, you have one guy who's been at one school, won 2 titles over 20 years, and then you have one that won almost, was it 5 or 6 for Coach K at Duke?
Don't know.
It's either five or
I could
6.
ask my friend who goes to Duke, but me personally, I don't know.
Yeah, that's over 40 years. That's still a great run. And no, he didn't
Absolutely.
win in his
No, he's
last
just
year, but
absolutely
he got to
dominant.
the Final Four.
Yeah, and no, he didn't win it all in every other year or anything. Like, but they made it far every year, and they were amazing every year.
Oh yeah. Like, you never could say this. Well, I'm sure there are a couple of years in there, but for the most part, Duke has always been a solid school with great talent going to the NBA, and a lot of that was because of Coach K. Jensen, you have anything to
Yeah,
add for college basketball?
that's all I got. You got my last one in there with the retirements.
Perfect. On that note, we're going to the pros in the National Basketball Association. I gotta say my number one moment, and if you don't have this one, I'm sure you have another equal number one. But I have
Oh,
Steph Curry winning Finals MVP for the first
that's my
time.
number two.
It's your number
That's my
two.
number
What's your
two.
number one?
My number one, Greg Popovich becoming the winningest coach in NBA history. He did that in March with his 1,336th win in 26 years of coaching, with 5 championships and 3-time Coach of the Year. Greg Popovich finally breaks. I think it was Don Nelson held the record previously.
Yeah,
That's
no,
my number one.
Greg Popovich, five five NBA titles over the course of, I believe he's been there since 1998. He you can't say he's not the one of the
Yeah,
best coaches of all time.
that sounds about right because he's been coaching this is his 26th year, so
Yeah.
that would have been what 97, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
97.
for the Warriors as well though with Curry, it's so incredible that they reached the NBA's peak again for the fourth time with the same core of Curry, Thompson, and Green. That's so impressive, and for Curry to finally get his Finals MVP after Iggy, after 2 times with Durant. Now he finally gets it. He's been leading the charge from the beginning, and now he finally gets his ring or his fourth ring,
It's his
first Finals
fourth
MVP.
ring. And while
He's
you know,
almost filling up the hand.
oh yeah, he's gonna be matching. He's not that far from Jordan being able to match that one photo. And the thing is with Curry, he is someone where while I know the Warriors have lost a couple of titles, he was someone as an individual who deserved the 2016 and 2019. He is someone who individually would deserves to already have 6 rings. The Warriors themselves know because they blew a 3-1 lead and then lost to the Raptors, but based on his own personal performances, he is someone that honestly should be a 6 for 6 guy, just like Jordan.
Yeah, and I think this is a very like hidden dynasty in NBA history.
Oh, it absolutely
Like if we
is.
look back in 30 years, this can be called a dynasty, but it's not been framed as a dynasty nearly as much as I would have thought in media.
I think it's just because you have the traditional idea of a dynasty. Like, you have the three peats in there, the three of four. I mean, they won
Yeah,
3 of 5 and they
yeah.
went to 5 straight finals. It's really hard to say
They
they're
did win three
not.
or four. They won and then lost to
Oh, you're
the
right. They did win
Cavs and then
3.
back to back with Durant and Durant.
Right.
So they
Okay,
did
you're
go
right.
three or
You're right.
four.
I don't know why I said they won 3 of 5. It's like it has to be that, 3 of 4
Yeah,
was in there. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
One more point for NBA before we move on, unless you have anything else. I do want to point out Bill Russell passing away.
I was
Very,
gonna
very
mention
sad
Bill
for the
Russell,
NBA world. But his number 6 is retired now across the entire
as
league.
it should
He's the
be.
third athlete to ever have their number retired across the league. Do you know the other two?
Jackie Robinson 482 and Wayne Gretzky 99.
There you go.
Didn't even
Got
have
it.
to think. As you're asking that question, I was like, I know these answers.
Yep. I figured you would because you love those two sports. But
Oh yeah, and we'll be
just to
getting to
make sure,
baseball and hockey very soon.
definitely. You have anything else to add for NBA?
I just want to say shout out to Jokic for the 2 straight MVPs.
Mhm. That's a good
I
one.
think, yeah, no, it's really impressive. He's been a fantastic at the center position the last couple of years. A lot of people probably would argue that Embiid should have been MVP last year, but who's to say that
Yeah.
Jokic is not?
But yeah, it's one of those situations where it's like there's not a wrong answer. Both are the correct answer. If Embiid would have won it, everyone would be like, yeah, he deserves it. But with Jokic, everyone's like, yeah, he deserves it.
I
So
totally agree. And
yeah.
on that note, we're going to stay in professional basketball, but we're going to do a quick look at the WNBA. Jensen, you will take the helm on that one. Let's
Yeah,
go.
I definitely was like, there's a couple things in there I know I want to talk about. It's not like I spent as much time watching it as the NBA, and honestly, I've kind of fallen away from watching basketball in the past year. But a couple of things in there. Sue Bird calls it a career after 21 seasons in the WNBA.
21
Absolute,
years.
absolute legend in the WNBA. Also, Las Vegas wins its first WNBA title and Becky Hammon becomes the first former WNBA player to win the championship as a coach as well.
That's a
So
big deal.
I think that's just really cool. So she was a former player and now she won it as a coach. I don't believe that she won it in her career as a player, but she's now won it as a coach. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And then
and Sue Bird's just 21 years. If you think about that, the league is 25 years old.
yep,
What like
there since almost the inception.
I'm just gonna do 21 divided by 25 because I'm doing basic math.
A little over 80%.
84% of seasons.
84. Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yep.
That's unheard of in any league.
Mhm.
You play in
Absolutely.
84%. Like I know it's such a new league, but still, like think about just who was around. Like, I don't know, you want to count like Ty Cobb being around for like 20 plus years at the start of the American League, but it wasn't like all of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Sue Bird there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then one more I wanted to finish off with. I just went top three for WNBA since I didn't watch it personally as much. Is that Brittany Griner was arrested
I mean
in
that's
Russia.
just an
And it lasted,
overall.
it wasn't just a moment. That lasted for like 70-80% of the year that
Yeah,
she
no,
was
that's a moment
banned.
that's more than just a sports history
Yeah.
moment. That's a
It was
world
originally
history.
in February.
Yeah, no, that conflict started like at the very end of February and it's still ongoing.
Yeah. And it took until within the last month.
Yeah, it's crazy. Um, so yeah, that's our part for the WNBA. Moving on to Major League Baseball. I thought this was a very easy pick. We have Aaron Judge hitting 62 home runs in a season. The first player to have 62, the first to have 60 plus home runs in a season since Barry Bonds in 2001. Whether or not you think he's a real home run king, that's up to you. It's technically Barry Bonds in the books, and in our hearts, it's probably Aaron Judge, though.
So which one do you think it is? Who is it then? Who is the home run king?
It's Barry Bonds.
Thank you. It's Barry Bonds.
I'm saying in a lot of people's hearts, like
Yes.
no, it is Barry.
Yeah, I believe it's Barry Bonds. It's marked as a home run. It's a home run.
Absolutely.
So that was absolutely a number one type moment. I don't know if it was my number one. I actually didn't put these in order. But somebody I thought was really, really big was Albert Pujols reaching 700 home runs and
Oh
Miggy
yeah.
with 3,000 career hits. I was
Those
so
were my 2 and 3 moments. Pujols, a lot of us this year reminded us just how phenomenal of a hitter he was from
yeah,
2001 to 2011. At
yeah.
especially in that second half, at any time he stepped up to the plate, you were at risk on the mound of giving up one of the biggest blasts of your career. Just ask Brad Lidge in 2005, the game 6 of the NLCS, how his career ended up after giving up a moonshot to Albert Pujols. The lockout ended this year. It started in December of 2021, went until March of 2022. We thought games were going to be canceled. That was not the case. It just kind of altered the schedule a little bit. Rest in peace, Vin Scully, the voice
Yeah,
of the
I have that on
Dodgers.
there.
First,
94 years old, 67 seasons calling Dodger baseball.
think about it. He started calling games in 1950, and he went till 2016.
Mm-hmm.
He will always be baseball's voice, even if it's posthumously.
And even if it's not like you're a Dodgers fan,
Yeah, no, everyone
everyone
likes Vin Scully.
he's a legend of the sports voice career, like in the industry behind people who are a voice of their sport. Like he's one of the best of all time. And it comes with 67 years of experience calling these high level games.
It's really impressive when you
Yeah.
think about it. Just no one has done this. I mean, you have guys just who've been on network television for years, like Al Michaels. He's been around for 40 something years. He didn't like I have to go back into how far he's been around, but think about just like how much the world had changed from the time that Vin Scully started until he
Yeah.
retired.
Absolutely.
The idea that someone, I believe he was younger than me. I'm 24. I think he was like 23 when he started. and he was just, before that, just
Boy.
Red Barber's apprentice for a little bit. Just that's just not how things are done today. And like, what 23-year-old's gonna be the voice of the Dodgers
Yeah,
now? It's not
never,
happening.
never.
Never. No, you're lucky if you're under the age of 40 and you get to get that role, let alone under the age of being able to run for Congress.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
absolutely.
Shout out to the Mariners for their first playoff appearance since
Ooh,
2001.
yeah.
They made the playoffs the first and last year of Albert Pujols' career. Just want to point that out.
Oh, wow. That also
That
tells you
just
how
occurred.
long Pujols was in the MLB.
Yeah, that it just occurred to me just now that that
Yeah.
was a thing for Albert Pujols.
Well, we
It's
got one
crazy.
minute left. I want to go from a future Hall of Famer to someone who is now a Hall of Famer, Big Poppy, inducted into the Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
the first ever primary DH to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I mean, the answer for that would actually be Edgar Martinez,
Oh, okay.
but
I,
he's
I
still
saw
the
that. I saw that from ESPN. They said first ever DH.
well, most people would say Martinez, he just
Okay.
got it, but still not wrong.
Yeah,
The best
he still
designated,
made the Hall of Fame. That's a great
yeah,
moment. Everyone loves Big Poppy
he's the most, there will not be for a very long time a designated hitter like either of those
at
guys,
that level.
especially David Ortiz.
Yeah, and
I
just to
grew up with
finish
that man.
off, go
Hmm?
ahead.
I grew up with that man in the AL East.
Yeah,
Very few guys were as big of a presence
yeah,
as him. I'm talking about just like probably the biggest name in Boston besides Tom Brady. And a lot of people would argue that within city limits, his name was even bigger.
yeah.
One's New England and one's bigger, like nationally. But when you think of who is the face truly of Boston sports, and I'm not from Boston, I could be completely wrong, but this is based on just what my experiences have been with Boston fans. When you think of the real deal face of Boston sports, a lot of people will argue it is David Ortiz.
Yeah, I think so. And we are a little bit over on our 5 minutes, but I want to say two more really quick things, pretty related,
Go for it.
before we go on, and that is the Astros winning it all and Dusty Baker becoming the oldest head coach slash manager in this case to win the championship in the major for American sports. He's the oldest ever to do so. Also, Philadelphia Phillies fans registered 2 earthquakes.
Isn't that crazy?
They registered earthquakes at the Penn State University.
That might be one of my
What?
personal favorite moments. Like,
That's
shout out
wild.
to Philly. Like, we knew they were
Yeah,
passionate, but
yeah,
if you want to think
absolutely.
of a city that loves baseball so
Amazing.
much that you caused an earthquake,
Amazing.
think of,
All right, let's
well, it's
go.
not classic.
I think we should
Anyway, we're gonna move on to the
go on
next
to another because now we're past the 6 minute mark. All right, moving on. Let's go to a little bit to tennis real quick. I'll go ahead and take the lead on here. Love tennis for as long as I can remember. I think it was my second ever sport I started following.
one. Really?
Mom for that. So some big retirements is really, really big news. Three of the big moments in tennis. So first off, starting in March with Ash Barty retiring from age 25, only 25 years old, retiring from the number one spot after becoming the first Australian player to win the Australian Open in 44 years. That's wild. Other retirements, this one hits a bit closer to home. Serena Williams calls it a career after 23, I believe, Grand Slam single title victories and 20, or sorry, not 29, 39 total Grand Slam victories. So that one is amazing. She's the GOAT and changed the game. Also retiring, and this one hits closest to home. My favorite tennis player of all time, Roger Federer, retires after 20 Grand Slam single titles. And what a way to end off his career playing in the Laver Cup. And he played teaming up in doubles with longtime competitor and rival Rafael Nadal. Those two in their careers met 40 times, 14 of which were in Grand Slam finals. I couldn't imagine any other way that I would want Roger Federer to end off his career other than winning a title.
Isn't it almost just surreal though to think that Serena and Federer are not gonna be playing tennis?
It's
It's surreal
really
because
weird
just
to think about.
just even someone who's not an avid tennis fan, just their existence is just part of when you turn on a tennis match.
Yeah. If you turn on a men's tennis match, there was a decent chance for about 20
Federer was on.
years that Federer was going to be in the quarterfinal. If you turned on a women's tennis match and it's the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam, there's a good chance that Serena Williams is in there.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
we're talking two of the greatest tennis players to ever
Yeah.
live. They're
Mhm.
contemporaries, and
Yeah.
they're both going out on the same year. We'll be sad to see them gone, but hats off to phenomenal careers to both.
Phenomenal careers. As well as Ash Barty as well. I know it was not the longevity of Serena Williams and Roger Federer, but retiring from number one, you got to number one, you know you're really good at tennis.
Absolutely. So, Jensen, anything else you'd like to add for tennis?
Yeah, so I had a couple of other things. Carlos Alcaraz from Spain becomes the youngest ever number one in the world after winning the U.S. Open at 19 years old. He's a
19.
teenager. His age ends in
Really?
teen, and he won the U.S. Open, and he was number one in the world for some time. I'm not sure if he still is. I don't think so, but he was number one in the world for some time. I want to also go back to Rafael Nadal, who was teammates with Roger Federer for his final match. Rafael Nadal becomes the first man to ever win 21 Grand Slam titles and 22 Grand Slam titles because he won 2 this year. Finally, Ons Jabeur from Turkey becomes the first Arab player, man or woman, to reach a Grand Slam final. She didn't win it, but she got there and is the first Arab player ever to do so.
No, we've seen some very impressive milestones this year, and hopefully we will see more in 2023. Moving
Absolutely.
on to the National Hockey League. A lot of big moments. I love talking hockey on this channel. My
Yeah.
subscribers know this. Anyone who's watched the channel at least a few episodes has noticed that, along with baseball. And undoubtedly, and this just made into 2022. The biggest moment this year for the National Hockey League is a two-parter. It's Alex Ovechkin getting to his 800th goal and then passing Gordie Howe for second all-time. And
Yeah.
inevitably, it won't be in 2023. This will be the top moment in 2024 when Ovi passes Wayne Gretzky to be the number one goal-scoring king in history.
Yeah. In his career, he averages, I think it's 46 goals a season
Which
for
is
his career.
ridiculous. He's not
So,
slowing
and
down.
he's at 37. So that puts him on pace to break Wayne Gretzky's record in it during the 2024-2025 season.
Yeah. He's unbelievable. In his rookie season, he had 52 goals. I mean, that's not the record. I believe it's like 70 or something. It was Teemu Salane. If
Yeah, it's
anyone had
still
more than
an
that, I wouldn't.
incredible amount, though.
No, it's an incredible amount. Do you know how many rookie years are these guys who, you play about 50, 60 games, you maybe at most you get 15 goals and then 40 points, and people applaud you. Hey, you're really figuring out this league. Next year you'll make the big leap. No, he came in immediately and put up 52 goals.
Yeah, incredible career, and I cannot wait to see the final, like going towards the final moments of it. Hopefully, we have more moments than just the final ones on the way. But I'm really excited for it, and I'm so glad that I've recently gotten into hockey.
You're
Big thanks
welcome.
to you for that, because it's really fun to see this. I have that on my list. That is number 2 for me, actually.
What's your
Um,
number one?
I'll get to the number one, but it's number 2 for me, and it's really, and I put on there also, and we did talk about this, but joining only Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky in the 800 club.
This is
My
true.
number one moment is because I was at the Stanley Cup Finals, and I was there for Game 6 when I got to see this. The Avs won the Stanley Cup, also setting the record for the quickest damaging of the Stanley Cup ever after winning it. I don't know if you knew that, but that's the fastest that the Stanley Cup has ever been damaged.
I did not know that actually. That
This is
is
when the guy
funny.
fell down on the ice. He damaged it. That's the fastest any club has ever damaged the Stanley Cup. Fun fact.
Didn't know that. That's not even remotely in my top five, but I'm glad you saw that. That's a
That's not
big
wait, that's not in your top 5 that the Avs won?
No, no, I thought you meant the damaging of the Stanley Cup, but the
Oh no,
Avs.
that was just to add into the Avs. That wasn't a single moment for me, even though that is kind of funny to put in there. I have a little
But I
what
will say the Avs winning the Stanley Cup is only fourth for me
Ooh, okay.
because we have other milestones. We had Austin Matthews, and this is actually my third. I'm going to go in reverse order. He reached 60 goals for the first time by any player since 2010. Can you tell me who was the last player to do it?
No, but I'm going to take a guess of either Alex Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby because both are good guesses.
The answer is neither.
Okay,
The
totally
answer
fair.
is Steven Stamkos.
Oh, look at that! Go
Yes.
Bolts!
Yeah, there's
Love
one of
that.
two Rocket Richard trophies.
Wow.
Yeah, and my other moment is Sidney Crosby's 500th goal, which
That's number
happened
three for
back in
me.
February. It's crazy. Like you could argue, like it's most people will say probably the best overall player of the generation is Sidney Crosby, while Ovechkin is the best
Like
overall goal
goal
scorer.
scorer. Yes.
But it is still wild that one of them has almost 300 more goals than the other.
Yeah.
That is actually like it's crazy. It really is.
I mean, that's just insane that Ovechkin is scoring this much. I mean, Gordie Howe took so many years to get to
Oh
801, and
yeah,
Wayne Gretzky was just
and in
unheard of.
and
So,
in Howe's defense, I will say, he started off with like 60 game seasons.
right,
He
that's
went to
true.
the
This is true.
WHA for like about 5 years. You know, if you count those goals, he would have had over 900. So would Gretzky.
That's true. That's true.
But,
Good point.
but still, you know, that doesn't take away from Ovechkin at all. I don't want it to. So we're talking legends. You can't compare legends. You could put them all on Mount Rushmore, and I wouldn't disagree with you. But there's
Yeah,
one more hockey moment I want to quickly discuss
go
that I
for it.
thought was interesting. Shane Wright was for over a year was the consensus first overall pick in the draft, and he ended up going fourth.
Okay.
I thought that was a pretty big moment. Ended up being
Was
Uri
there a reason behind
Slafkovsky.
it?
A lot of people say that when you're looked at for so long, people start to, find ways to be critical.
Oh,
And
yeah. Because you're
this
always looking for
Slavkovsky
something
guy,
wrong. And with all that time,
exactly.
you find something wrong eventually if you're looking for it.
Almost like they got worn out on him. And then, Slavkovsky came around and closer to the draft, he started to really shine
Gotcha.
as a potential first overall pick. And that's what happens. And I know Wright isn't looking great at the moment. He's been sent down to the OHL twice. I still think in the end, there's a reason why he was supposed to be a first overall pick. He just might need a little extra teaching and developing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that will do it for hockey. We're gonna move on to the
There.
final sport of soccer. I think we are both in agreement
Or
on number.
football.
Okay, yeah, football. In case we have some non-Americans and non-Canadians watching, I
Yeah.
apologize, but
That's it's football.
yeah. Oh no, the American is calling it soccer. Oops.
You know, it was called soccer first. I don't know if you
It
knew about that.
was.
Yes. But yes, so well, you said you might have the same number one. What did you have for number one?
Argentina winning the World Cup. Isn't that
Yeah,
obvious?
absolutely.
I
Number
don't know
one
how's
story.
that not number one? Like
Oh, it has to be. Yeah, it's
Messi
absolutely
finally
number one.
wins a World Cup. It's the
Finally wins
first,
it.
yeah, the first time winning a World Cup for Argentina since 1986.
Six. Yep. With
And
I believe Maradona was on that team. So the
really,
last Argentinian like absolute world class legend was Maradona, and he won it in '86, I believe.
well, there you go. So all the legends finally have their win.
Yeah.
I know Argentina made it to the final in 2014 and lost to Germany.
Mhm.
And Argentina really had like this nice success story here because they lost the very first match to Saudi Arabia. Saudi
Mhm.
Arabia throws a national holiday over it, and that was enough to spark a absolute run to the championship. And I called it too. I remember
Yeah, I
thinking
knew after that
they had to win.
Leo Messi was going to do nothing but nothing less than everything needed to at least get to the final. I kind of thought it was going to be France getting it, over Argentina. It was really tough, but I mean, I knew Messi and Argentina were just going to do everything possible.
Absolutely. And two things I want to point out, bouncing off two things. First, the last time Argentina won the World Cup in 86 was the last time Canada had qualified. And this year was the first time they had qualified since then.
So what you're saying is that Argentina really wants Canada to qualify every year.
How did you know?
Call me superstitious,
Yeah,
but
clearly the hunch here.
yeah.
Um,
Oh,
you know,
without a doubt. Like,
so
I
what you're
hear that.
saying is if Canada makes the World Cup, Argentina's going to win.
Then bet on Argentina. Bet
Yep.
them on
All right. Yep. You
Argentina.
heard it here. If
Um,
Canada makes the World Cup in 2026, bet on Argentina. On
I'm
top of
not
that,
sure. I mean, the
yeah.
Argentina team is great, but you don't have Messi anymore, very likely. But yeah, I do
Well,
want to
he
stick
didn't
with
say he
the.
was done, but
Yeah,
I
but it's another 4 years though.
no, it
That's
is
tough.
4 years. But why know
So
he's
that's
going
tough.
to do
He's gonna be
in
in his 40s
why know he's going to do in the meantime, possibly go to Miami.
potentially. That isn't a
That's
thing. It has been rumors all year.
yeah, and even though that's not an official thing, like Ronaldo moving to you said it was
Is a Saudi Arabian team?
Saudi
Al
Arabia.
Nassr.
Okay.
Al Nassr.
And but Messi going to Miami has been a big discussion all year, and a lot of people have been saying it's a done deal. So I think that goes under top soccer moments. It's almost like David Beckham going to LA Galaxy.
If I would have thought of any like really solid player potentially in the label of legend going to Miami, I would have thought Neymar because I feel like he just fits there with his style.
Okay,
Like
but also just like when you gotta get the biggest name out there. It's like when the LA
absolutely.
Kings went and got Gretzky and traded for him. You go get him just
That's
because
like I don't know, so you're getting Ronaldo. I mean that's how you
yeah.
get into the media.
But yeah, but the point is that you go get a guy that people who have never gone to a soccer game in their lives will go buy season tickets. That's what happened with the Los Angeles Kings when they got Gretzky. There were
Yeah.
people who had never watched a hockey game in their lives buy season tickets. That
Wow.
will happen for Inter Miami if Messi actually goes there. I will guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely would. I want to do a couple more things because we have a little over a minute left in our 5 minute timer for this. Sticking with the World Cup final and then moving backwards. Mbappe scores a hat trick in the World Cup final. He also, I believe, is the number one goal scorer in World Cup history already. But maybe it's World Cup final history, but I think it's World Cup history. And I think he's only 23. So I know that in 10 years' time, I think we're going to be talking about him for absolute best in the world if we're not already doing so in a couple of years. And then moving backwards, in terms of the knockout stages,
Right.
Morocco becomes the first African nation to make it to the semifinal, and I think it was fourth African nation to make it to the quarterfinal, I believe.
Really? I
Yeah,
did hear, though, I remember hearing about Morocco being the first African team to make it to that stage. The second tidbit you mentioned, I did not know. So that's actually really interesting.
yeah, I
It's
believe it's only four for the quarterfinals.
yeah, it's cool seeing more countries start to um be successful on the world stage. Like, listen, it's a world tournament. It's cool to see other countries step up.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, and Morocco is a really, really good team. I mean, they have
they are.
Hakimi, who's with PSG. They have El Nasir or El Nasiri, who I believe was with Man United. I don't know if he still is, but they've had some really big names as well. And then to finish off for international soccer in the World Cup, since we have reached our 5 minutes here, is USA advances to the knockout stage after not making it to the previous World Cup. I think that's huge for soccer in the US.
Okay, but there's like one last soccer thing
Oh,
we
but
have to acknowledge, and that is Pele.
oh yes.
Rest in peace, arguably the greatest soccer player of all time.
Yeah.
We're
If
not
you
going
said
to,
it, I think he's the best of all time. No one's gonna say you're stupid.
yeah, like how can you argue that?
Yeah.
Is really sad just how he took a turn for the worst and the world lost him. But
Yeah.
he's also an example of a player who had a lot of international success and then came and played in the United States. So
Yeah.
he is a huge factor in helping grow the game across the world. And rest
Absolutely.
rest in peace.
Yeah. And actually one more thing, because I do remember this. Christian Eriksen made it back to the pitch for Denmark after collapsing in 2021. It was
That
a
too.
very, very, very scary moment, very traumatic for a lot of the Danish players. And he finally made it back onto the pitch and played an international game, international friendly, I think it was, for Denmark. So he's back, and amazing to see that. That
We
was
we
really nice.
always like a story of overcoming adversity
Yeah,
in any situation, and it's very relevant right now with Damar Hamlin in the
yeah.
NFL. And I don't care if that was in 2023. That's still a very major moment and very relevant. It's
It's definitely one of the top moments of this NFL season, at the very least.
absolutely, and just from human interest, it's always nice to see people overcome freak moments that really just happen by chance.
Yeah.
And we hope that that's the same case for Damar. We won't know
Yeah.
that until
It was
well
really
after
good.
this video.
As of this morning, I think it was, he FaceTimed his teammates, and he's
Yeah,
been able to
he
hold his
posted
hand,
on
hold the
social
hands of family
media.
members, and he put out a personal statement. So really, really inspiring. I know it's like you said, it's 2023. We're talking about 2022, but that just
Yep.
has been mentioned. Like that's so inspiring.
We love seeing that. I hope people can watch this and gain inspiration, regardless of it being soccer or any sport that you may follow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there we will
Very happy
move
for
on.
Christian.
Yeah, and we'll move on to the miscellaneous things. It'll be just various sports that we've already discussed. We wanted to look over just some honorable mentions.
Yeah, I'll take the first go at it and let you get the final word in.
All right, go for
I'll
it.
just go down the list. I got a few, so we'll just rattle them off. Live Golf now exists and has poached some of golf's biggest
Live
stars with a
golf.
lot of money. That's wild that that's a thing now. Also on the list, Shaun White calls it a career after his fifth Winter Olympics. It was shocking to me that I forgot the Olympics happened this year. And then
I
also
I
Shaun
also
White, five
completely
of
forgot
them.
with everything happening. Like I think it's also just because the Tokyo Olympics were less than a year before this one was
Mhm.
played.
Yeah,
And in our lifetimes, we have not had it where, it
yeah,
used to be the winter and the summer were all in the same year. That changed in the 90s and we haven't grown up with it. So I think for us, it's a
yeah,
little,
yeah,
it doesn't feel like we had two Olympics at this point.
yeah.
But still, Shaun White, fantastic career.
Fantastic career. Five Winter Olympics. Amazing.
Five.
Another one I love in there, Rich Strike winning the Kentucky Derby as an
Rich,
80-1 odds. Also, it was the longest stretch of winning in this year's Derby, and the second biggest underdog to win the Kentucky Derby in the history of the Kentucky Derby, which, let me remind you, when that started, the year started with a 1-8.
yeah, no,
So,
the Kentucky Derby is one of the oldest races on the planet. It,
yes, and
it's
150
unbelievable.
years almost.
And
Second biggest
he
underdog.
was far behind on the final turn.
Yeah, yeah.
He just
It was,
caught up down the stretch
it was
and won.
amazing. It was amazing. Also, one of the best sports commentary moments of all time. Not even of 2022, but of all time. That's near the top. Oh, that was so fun to see. I'm gonna go ahead and move on so we can keep rattling it down the list.
Keep going.
In college softball, Oklahoma has one of the most dominant softball teams of all time, if not most dominant team of any sport
And they
of
have the
all
college
time.
softball Babe Ruth right now.
Yeah, and like I think that was 56-4 was the previous season, and
Really?
they improved to only lose 3 games, 40 of which I told you about this a little bit ago, and I don't remember if this was the exact amount, but 40 times minimum 40. I think it was 40 times mercy ruling the opponent. So that means they stop the game early
Jeez.
because they have such a big lead. They stop the game early because there's no chance. So I think one of the most dominant teams of all time in general. College baseball, a huge moment was Brown University signs the first female Division I baseball player in
Yeah.
Olivia Pichardo. I think that's
That was a
so
phenomenal
cool.
moment.
Yeah,
Phenomenal moment for the game of baseball. I would love to see her be in Major League Baseball one day. She can play
yeah,
multiple
yeah.
positions.
I think it's tough to get into Major League Baseball just based off of the size. She's only 5'7".
I
Shout out
mean,
Jose
Jose Altuve is
Altuve.
5'6".
Shout out Jose. But I could definitely see something like a minor league team taking her on. Uh,
Well,
I'm
you
assuming she proves herself in college baseball
if she
because she's
puts
only a
up the
freshman.
right
But
numbers and succeeds, like listen,
yeah,
Ivy League players make it to Major League Baseball. Just
yeah,
as Ryan LaVarnway, who was a Yale stud, was who I don't know if he was active last year, but he was with the Red Sox for several years and he bounced around
nice.
the league. It's
Yeah,
very possible she will make it to Major League Baseball if
yeah.
she
Assuming
can
she puts
prove
up
she can
numbers, then
make
it's
it
good.
here.
Yeah,
Another big moment, Ole Miss winning the College World Series.
yeah, yeah. That's a big one too. I have three more on my list for miscellaneous.
Go for it.
Going to Formula One. Max Verstappen wins his second consecutive World Drivers' Championship. Red Bull Racing wins its first constructors championship since 2013 when Sebastian Vettel was in there. Also, a big moment for me in there. Sebastian Vettel calls it a career, absolutely an amazing career, four-time world champion. And also, Max Verstappen sets the new record for victories in a single season with 14. The previous record was Sebastian Vettel, who retired this year. And then a little bit of NASCAR, if you remember this. Ross Chastain
Yep.
goes in the video game. Shout out to Dirt to Daytona on the GameCube. It was an amazing game. I had that, played it all the time. Ross Chastain goes Dirt to Daytona mode, and he hooks it around the final turn using the wall. He passes five drivers and gets into the championship four. And he sets a lap record for Martinsville Speedway in the process of doing so.
There's just been so many great sports moments. Like I know we put this in what is the quote
Amazing.
unquote miscellaneous, but like we are talking about them still for a reason, even if it's at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not. It's only miscellaneous because we don't have a bunch of these for sports. Like I don't watch NASCAR as much as I watch tennis or baseball or the NFL. So I don't have as many things to go off of. But that's something I saw everywhere. That was a huge moment.
no, these are still great moments.
Yeah,
And I believe you still said you had two
I
more.
had one. I have one last
One
one.
more.
I think everyone's considered this person the GOAT. Joey Chestnut wins his 15th Nathan's famous hot dog title.
Joey
Continue them,
Chestnut.
Joey Chestnut, baby.
I believe apart from like 1 year, he's won like every hot dog eating contest at Coney
Yeah.
Island since 2008 or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, for that one he lost, he was probably sick, anyways, probably.
Yeah,
That's probably why he lost. He was probably
that
sick.
hot dog got food poisoning or something. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, he's practicing. Yeah.
Someone
All right. I want to hear
sabotage.
your list.
All right.
I
I'm
know
gonna
you
lead
have a
off
few
with
that want to overlap, but yeah.
yeah. Somehow I still have different ones, which is
All
kind of
right.
cool. I'm gonna start off with Joe Buck leaving Fox to go to ESPN.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna take a
Okay.
TV route on this one. As someone who was in the College of Journalism and Communications at UF, you and myself, that's
Yep.
always gonna be something relevant. Did not see that coming. I mean, another big one is Al Michaels going to Amazon Prime and leaving Sunday Night Football.
Honestly, big thing is Amazon getting Thursday Night Football. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, but they've had it
Oh, when did that start?
a few years.
I thought it was this year.
All right, well, that's
Oh,
awkward. Awkward
oops.
sports history. Oops.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, moving on. Caleb Williams winning the Heisman for
Hmm.
USC.
Yeah, I had that earlier.
USC with a lot. I know. Just wanted to repeat that one
Oh yeah,
again
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it it's cool. He was not supposed to win the Heisman this year, and does everyone think he should have won? No, but it's so hard to argue that he's not. USC came out of nowhere, made a push for the college football playoff, fell short because Utah is a great trap team.
Hmm.
So there's that. It it's impressive. After that, I have Fernando Tatis Jr. suspended for 80 games after already missing games for I believe it was a bike accident.
Yeah.
And he a motorbike accident specifically. And then the PED thing comes up. He just got cleared to practice right before we recorded this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Oh,
I
there you
I'd
go.
have to double check how many games he's still ineligible to play.
Right.
But it's crazy just like how all that unfolded. And the Padres still made the playoffs and made it to the National League Championship Series without him.
Yeah.
Imagine if
Lonzo,
they had
right.
like I don't know how he's going to perform next season. I don't at all. We really won't know until he gets on the field again and starts performing.
I think he'll still be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine
Yeah.
too. A lot of players have there are players who have bounced back from these types of things. Just ask Nelson Cruz from the biogenesis scandal of 2013.
Yeah.
Arch Manning chooses
Ooh,
Texas.
good one. Good one.
We are all wondering where the son of Cooper Manning was going to go, the nephew of Peyton and Eli. I Texas obviously has all the money in the world to give to these players, especially with NIL. I believe there's over $12 million
Yeah.
in this deal, and you know
Yeah.
that's how you're gonna get the number one
Also, that they'll be joining
prospect.
the SEC soon as well. So there's also that to play on.
Yes. And if in theory, had Texas joined next year, it would have been his first season, but it will be by his junior year that he is in the
Yeah.
SEC along with Oklahoma. And that should be interesting to see. That's how you pry guys away from Bama and Georgia and even Ole Miss, the alma mater of Peyton, not Peyton, Eli. Sorry, it would have been sorry, Archie Manning, the grandfather, and it would have been Cooper's had he been able to play.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess also you can add in Tennessee. I don't remember if they went after him either.
I
Moving
mean,
on.
they definitely did. I mean, everyone did.
Yeah, I guess. TCU upsets Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl, the college football semifinal.
Mhm.
TCU good all year. The question was, how would they look in the playoff? They looked pretty good. I mean, they had a massive lead.
I mean, they won.
Michigan did
So
come back, but they still won the shootout. When push comes to shove, they upset the number two play school in the country,
yeah,
and they're moving on to the national championship, which will be played a couple days after this is posted. This is being recorded January 7th. It should be up around the time it's this game is played on January 9th. We're not going to talk about that game itself. That history hasn't happened yet.
seemed to be.
But when it has happened, the Baker Mayfield carousel
Okay.
gets traded to the Panthers from the Browns, and now he is on the Rams. How will that look in the long run? I don't know, but so far, Sean McVay seems to like having Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it's the sort of person, it's the sort of player where if it's like, well, I don't want to trade up in the draft or spend this high draft capital on one of these quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield's the kind of guy where
Yeah, he was a
he'll pull you
first
over to the next
overall pick.
quarterback in that case, or just end up developing enough because he's not even 30. He's still on the right side of 30.
No,
Um,
listen, he's a first overall
so
pick and won the Heisman for a reason. He has the correct build. If you put him in the right, he went to a terrible Browns team that had just gone 0-16. You still have to put like I know we judge quarterbacks, and it's the same issue as Matt Stafford. Football is one of the ultimate team sports. I'd still say baseball is above it,
mhm.
but because but the quarterback position gets a lot of pressure, as it should, but you still gotta have
Yeah,
the right team around it before any of these guys can do anything. It just isn't you get your quarterback and magically you're gonna be a good team.
yeah, absolutely.
And
That's a big
yep,
moment.
and I'll just go through these next three quickly. Xander Bogarts to Boston, out of Boston, heading to San Diego. How does that affect Tatis Jr.? We will find out. Sean Payton out of NOLA. We might soon see where he ends up. I heard some rumors about the Broncos, but again, that history hasn't happened yet. And Justin Verlander will reunite with Max Scherzer on the New York Mets next year.
And he won the Cy Young after
Yes, he
Tommy
did
John
at the age of 39.
and after Tommy John.
All these, he's an unbelievable pitcher. I
Absolutely.
think he's
One of
going
the
to
greatest
reach,
of all time.
I think he will reach 300 wins by
Yeah.
the time
And
he retires.
Scherzer got 200 or was it three? Or did he reach 300? What was it?
He's past 200. He's not at 250 yet. I
Okay.
believe he's somewhere in the middle, like 225 ish.
Okay.
Whether he gets to 300, I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. But Verlander is a very strong
Yeah.
possibility
I
still.
think Verlander is going to go down as one of the best pitchers of all time.
And if not, he is, I would argue, one of the best pitchers of the 21st century, along with Scherzer,
Yeah.
Kershaw, among others. Those are definitely
Absolutely.
like the big three for this century.
Yeah. Anything else you got?
I think that wraps it up for this episode. We want to thank everybody for watching this full episode of Awkward Sports History. We know it's definitely a different length than our usual content, but I'm Harrison. That's
I'm
Jensen.
Jensen.
And we'll definitely be doing this one next year as well. And make sure to be on the lookout for more content on the channel. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.